From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, just how good is this football team? The Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week and some other stuff around the world of Florida State athletics. Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com is the website. You can pull out your phone, hit that QR code, go right to the site. But we'll let you know what's going on Mondays. It is the lunch special, of course. Build your own burger. Another dub, another burger. Build your own burger Mondays at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. An $8.99 lunch special from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Also comes with a side. Fries. Good fries there, right? You're not a potato guy, Corey, but come on. Fries, Corner Pocket, solid.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, the fries at Corner Pocket are insane. I really do love those fries. Okay. I'm not lying. The straight fries are the best on earth.
Straight fire, some might say.
There you go. Nice.
Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Check it out. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminoles sports source. There's no promo code for that. You just go to the website, and you can subscribe for an entire year for only $10, a whole year. So if you sign up now, you'll be getting ready for, that sleepy late November game before the Gator game that will punch Florida State's ticket into the college football playoff at this rate. So join. Hurry up already. What are you waiting for? You got till August, but seriously, we've seen enough. This team is good. Join us. Hit the thumbs up, like and subscribe. We would appreciate it. Corey, let's jump right into it. We got some other stuff to talk about, some other sports. Soccer, basketball maybe to a lesser degree.
Yuck. But
this football team, man, I don't know who's right. I don't know who's wrong. I'm probably closer to being the wrong team on this staff and what they're doing. I never bought into this whole, all right, win 3 games, all right, whatever, win 5, win 7, come back and win 9, then maybe win 11. I never bought into this sort of belief of linear growth, right? I never thought that was like, hey, let's give the guy 4 years, get out of his way, and then we'll know what we have after 4 years. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way, man. And I think I'm being somewhat reasonable. I know I'm being a little bit irrational too, but I think I'm being overall reasonable that you need to start seeing some stuff early in a tenure to let you know you're going in the right direction. Shout out to all of you who believe day one, because that's your coach. If Gene Williams sells this website tomorrow and some new dude's my boss, I will not believe in that dude until I have reason to believe in that dude. I mean, on the surface, I'm like, oh, great to have you. Awesome. Yeah, it's great. Then I'll be texting all my friends like, hey, man, you guys got jobs open for me? So shout out to all you who jumped on day one. You're smarter than I am. We're seeing enough, right, Corey? This team is good. And competition, obviously, maybe not the best in the country, but say that to Kentucky, who lost to Vanderbilt. Say that to NC State, who lost to Boston College at home. Yeah. Say that to UCLA, who lost at home to lowly Arizona. Florida State is absolutely running roughshod over competent teams, to a certain degree. This is, I want to say, it's almost unprecedented to be at this point where you, as a Florida State fan, you think that you got the best players and you should win every game going away by 3 scores because we're back, because that's the way it used to be in the dynasty era, and we keep telling you that those days are over. You're not going to have that kind of dominance. Hey, man, 3 games in a row. I know they're not 3 great teams, but this is just crazy. How do we make sense of what's going on right now with Florida State and Mike Norvell?
Yeah, I mean, unprecedented. It is precedented, but barely. The last time they won 3 straight ACC games by 35 or more was 2013. That's not a surprise. And then before that, it was 01. This is the last time they won 2 straight games over, away from home by more than 35 points. 13 again, and then before that was 03. So this is something that's happened once in the last 20 years. So it's not unprecedented just by the pure definition, but it's close. Because, look, and I made this point a lot Saturday night and into Sunday when I wrote my column. Is this isn't normal? Yes, Florida State was favored. They weren't favored by 30. Nobody in college football, save for Georgia playing at Vanderbilt, Ohio State against anybody in like the Big Ten West, save for those teams, Nobody is favored by multiple touchdowns and expected to win by 28, 30 points on the road in conference. And Florida State just won by 35 a week after winning by 42 on the road. This is, I don't know how the season's going to play out. Don't know what's going to happen the Friday after Thanksgiving, but this 3-game stretch, man, is as well as you could imagine a football team playing, because it is one thing to win. And look, where Florida State has been the last 5 years, you would have, if people would have asked you in August, you're gonna win you're gonna beat Georgia Tech, win at Miami, and win at Syracuse, all by 1 point, you would have taken it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Instead, you're out here looking like just the best, one of the best teams in the country. And I don't, again, the opponents matter, but only to a degree, because nobody else is doing that to Syracuse. Nobody else is outgaining Syracuse by 200 yards in the first half. Nobody else is outgaining Miami by 300 yards in a half, or Georgia Tech. It's not just that they're beating these teams, they are burying these teams. So it makes you think, when you play a team that's better, like the team that's coming in the day after Thanksgiving, you're probably not going to bury them by 35 points. But the way you're playing right now, if you keep that up, you're going to win, and you're probably going to win comfortably, because you're playing that well on both sides of the ball. And this is something that, it just has not happened here in almost a decade. It's crazy.
38-3 win for Florida State. They managed to keep Syracuse out of the end zone. Syracuse now has lost 4 straight. Florida State improves to 6-3 on the season. 7-3. 7-3. We got 2 more games left. Figure out your math, Aslan. I like what you said in the wrap up, as we kind of talk now about, I don't want to go too much into it, but obviously that Friday after Thanksgiving playing the Gators, this will be a game opponent. I favorite team is Florida State. My second favorite team is whoever's playing the Florida Gators. That's been the mantra forever. And I know when you and I were doing the wrap, which check it out, folks, if you haven't, by the way, it's totally free. It's right on Warchant TV. That's our YouTube channel. You said, hey, I know this might not be popular with some people, but I'm kind of glad to see that team down south, the team to the east or whatever Urban call us, the opposite of that, the inverse.
Right.
Kind of good to see them look okay-ish or good, whatever you want to use, whatever adjective you want to use. I always want to beat up on the Gators no matter what. I want to see them fail in all their endeavors. But yeah, all right, come here with some confidence. Come here looking competent, and let's get some more tests in front of us. I need some real good GPS data to know where we're at. And I think if they look okay-ish, whoever they've got this coming week, it portends a Friday really after Thanksgiving showing us truly just how far they've come. But it'll diminish some things this season if they can't finish out the drill the way they're projecting out right now. But certainly, man, if they can pull that off, wow. I mean, it's just an incredible feeling. And I know it might not translate to recruiting momentum, but it just has to give you all the confidence in the world that, they're going to get better players. I mean, these guys are great, but these are really good college football players they have, but I don't know how much greatness there is. And another point that you made about these teams they're beating don't have that much less NFL talent than Florida State has right now. And that's just incredible to see them outmatch these teams, I guess, based just on scheme and preparation and physicality. I mean, great things that you want your program to be about.
And I don't know how well I articulated it in the wrap or even in my column, but this isn't with the Florida State fan base. We all grew up. Many of us grew up with them just completely outclassing the opponent, having 4.5-star players versus 2-star players. This isn't that. Florida State does have better players than Syracuse. Do they have better players than Miami? I don't know. I don't know the recruiting rankings. I would think they're very close. But the difference between the talent level at Syracuse and the talent level at Florida State is not a huge chasm. So that's not to diminish the talent that's on Florida State's roster. It's more to, basically praise what this coaching staff and this roster is doing, because they are doing these last 3 weeks and really the whole season, except for a half against NC State and a quarter against Wake. What they're doing is really, really impressive, because they have this Florida State team that might have Aslan? 7 NFL players on it, maybe. How many first-round picks? Maybe 1. They're making them look like the 97 Noles, man. Like the way they're running over these ACC teams. The point being, the chasm between the talent level it's not so disparate that Florida State should be beating teams like this, but they are so well prepared. They apparently practice great, and they are completely out coaching and out scheming and outplaying these teams. They're more physical. They play a more physical brand of football than the teams they're playing. Their offensive line is kind of starting to take over football games, which is what world are we living in where you say that about Florida State? And it's just a credit, number one, to the coaching staff, number two, to the players for how hard they play and how hard they practice, I guess, and how well they prepare. Like, that's not just coach speak when Norvell gets up there, I guess. He really does appreciate how hard they prepare because they go out in these games, Aslan, and they are all over these teams.
I mean, these games have been over after the first quarter. Maybe not Georgia
almost,
Tech. That was kind of sloppy, but you knew that they were just going to be able to pull away eventually at some point. But, yeah, what they've done in Syracuse and Miami the last 2 weeks is incredible.
Well, and that's why, even going back to the Georgia Tech game, I know there was some difference of opinion because some people weren't impressed with the way they played, thought they played horribly. I thought they executed horribly at the 2-yard line on the pitch or on the Wildcat play. But
they dropped some balls and stuff, man. It was sloppy.
But look, Florida State isn't in a position to just dismiss blowout wins. And they were up 41-10 in an ACC game, where you could even say they didn't play that well, but they took over the game. They went on a 41-3 run or something, 41-7 run. That's not something that's happened around here a lot, and I think that built something with them. Like, okay, this is what it's like to dominate someone. Like, that stuff matters too. Getting used to dominating someone. And for from the second quarter on against Georgia Tech, they just completely clowned them. And then they've done it for the next 8 quarters. So I think there was a lesson learned in that Georgia Tech game. Like, look, we just beat the bejesus out of this team, and we didn't even play all that well. Now look what happens when we play well. These teams have no chance. And again, that's just it's just not the way college football is played anymore. This would be the equivalent of like an NFL team winning 3 straight games by 25, 24 points. It happens, but it's very rare. And that's just remarkable what they're doing, man. You don't go on the road and win 2 straight games by 5 and 6 touchdowns. That's crazy.
I like the graphic that they showed during the game. Tony Tokar's apparently watching his all-22, but also some of the TV copy. He took a photo of it and then tagged Coach Atkins in it. And it's the Seminole offensive line success is the name of the graphic. Yards per play, 7 yards per play. This offense that's first in the conference. Yards per rush, 5.5 yards per rush. That is first in the conference. They've only allowed 12 sacks through 10 games. That is the best in the conference as well. This offensive line is pretty solid.
It's more than that now. It's becoming a force. It's because look, man, Syracuse had the 15th ranked defense in the country. They're not a pushover. Miami is not a pushover up front, but they are when they play Florida State. And you go into every game now, and obviously you will against Louisiana, but the game after that too, and the bowl game, you're going to go into all these games confident your running game is going to run for 200 yards. This isn't Navy. This isn't Paul Johnson's Georgia Tech. This isn't. But you go into a game confident you're going to run all over the team. And that's a crazy place to live. And what's cool about what's happened the last 3 weeks is it's all worked in concert together because the defense has been outstanding. It had a bad half against Georgia Tech, sort of bad half. But they gave up a touchdown.
Third quarter was a little sloppy.
Yeah, and they gave up a touchdown on the final play of the game, which was completely meaningless, but they did. But what they did Saturday against their starting quarterback, they finally faced the starting quarterback the whole game. It did not matter. They suffocated that team. That team had one play. They hit like a 35-yard pass on a third down and got a face mask on top of it, and that was it. That's the whole offense. Adam Fuller and that staff and those players deserve a ton of credit too. I don't know what Fabian Lovett's war is, but you think about what this defense has looked like the first 3.5 quarters against LSU, and then what it's looked like since he's come back. And they are a completely different unit.
He was on he played the whole LSU. I mean, he missed like the last 2 plays.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. But I more meant like before LSU started throwing it every down. And just went into their hurry up, scrap the real offense. This is what it could have been looking like the whole season. Now, you'd like to have some more depth, so the loss of one defensive tackle doesn't have that big of an impact. But those other guys got better while he was out, and now you do have some real depth. And now I like what Adam Fuller's doing. They seem to be more aggressive. There was that one play where we were doing the watch along where they had 6 guys to the line of scrimmage, and they all came, and they blocked down on I believe it was Briggs maybe, and let Peyton run free. And that's cool to see too. Like you're not just getting sacks because Jermaine Johnson and Jared Verse are better than the guys blocking them. You're getting sacks because you've dialed up a pressure that they're confused by. That's cool to see, man. So you've got guys that play hard. You've got pretty good talent, at least in your starting 11 up front. And then you also have a defensive coordinator and a linebackers coach and DNs coach that are timing up these blitzes well. And they're hard to decipher. They're hard for these quarterbacks and these lines to pick up, and you're getting sacks that way too, or at least pressures. That's, man, all of it is, and they play so physical, man. They come and they hit you, and you go down. That is not an easy running back to tackle, man. And they tackled him like he was a fifth-string walk-on guy. So that was the whole game from start. Really, the last 8 quarters have been the best 8 quarters Florida State football has put together in 9 years. Just really fun to watch.
You folks know sports and you pick winners all the time, almost like Corey and I. So why not get paid for them at MyBookie? MyBookie.ag's got the biggest online selection of odds and contests for all your sports betting needs anytime, anywhere. Sign up free today, but use the promo code WAKEUP. I've been saying word chant for 10 weeks.
Oh, no.
Supposed to be wake up. But the word chant one works for headlines, but all my credit's going to Jeff Cameron right now, so help your guy out. Claim a deposit match of any amount up to $1,000 instantly when you use the promo code WAKEUP. And you can bet on the NFL, NCAA, and the money bag, which is a one-of-a-kind opportunity to spin for crazy odds on props and futures. You place a bet, spin the wheel, you score epic odds on the best teams, athletes, and events. Corey and I, man, we're on a roll. We both went 2-1 again. So Corey is now 6-3 on the season. I am 5-4. And I bricked mine that I got wrong. I had South Alabama did cover. It was 16.5. They won by 17. Clemson was a 7-point favorite. I don't know what they won by more than that. It was 16 points. Louisville they had some weird final score. Yeah. But I bricked on my over with Oklahoma and West Virginia. Check the weather when you bet over-unders, kids. It was ugly in Morgantown, so brick that one. Corey crushed Ole Miss, getting 11.5 at home. Bama's not who we thought they were. LSU squeaked by. There was a push, I think. We give it to Corey, though. It was a 3-point line. But then Wake let you down. Wake was a 3.5-point favorite, and it was a 2-point loss.
Yeah, it was a 2-point loss. It was a 2-point loss. They were right there. So
join us on Wednesday. We'll give you another batch of winners and blend them with your own and win big over at MyBookie. Again, use that promo code WAKEUP.
I like that you give me the wins even though they're pushes.
Isn't that kind of how it works, though?
No, you don't win on those. You just don't lose. It's a tie.
Okay. All right.
So I like that.
Well, what's not been a tie, obviously, is just how good Florida State has looked here, man. And I agree, man. They maybe have like 7 NFL guys. So how is this all coming together? I know we talked about the offensive line looking better and they're gelling. The romanticism of football with me and you is probably a lot more long lost than anybody else that's listening to this show. You guys don't cover it for work. You're not up till 2 in the morning hammering out stuff, and you're like, man, I'd rather be at home right now. Love our jobs. Love my job. Love working for Warchant. But, how much of what's going on right now is sort of this, climb ethos? How much of it really is the success that we hear Alex Atkins talking about? These guys are rooting for each other. It doesn't matter who's having the success. Now you're seeing it with a coach like Tokars is, he could have been like, hey, y'all, check me out. Look at my offense. I know I'm the quarterback's coach, but our offense is averaging over 7 yards per play. All these things are because we have a really good quarterback, and I'm helping him out. But he's instead tagging Atkins with the eyeball emoji, hey, man, look what you have done. There's this real kind of sense of camaraderie, this the toxicity that people are talking about when you start chasing stars and giving them bags of money and NIL cash and trying to keep everybody happy. That's not a problem that Florida State has, which is kind of maybe a blessing in disguise. How much of what's going on is just the fact that these guys are so in tune, so together. And I kind of cringe even talking about that aspect of things as we're not in the locker room. But how do you explain turning it around this drastically this soon? It has to be more than just a really good quarterback and, just some well-timed, tomato cans on a schedule.
Yeah, when it comes to the offense in particular, I think, look, it's their third year in the system. They do have a really good quarterback. The offensive line has gone from bad to serviceable to good. That changes everything. And then you look to have a superstar in the making at running back. Plus, the wide receivers are so much better than they were. Obviously the transfers helped, but everybody else raised their level of play because of the transfers, and now you don't have the worst wide receiver room in the country or in the conference.
But you have on average then probably 2.5, 3-star recruits, but you're playing at like a 4.5 level. That's the crazy thing, man. That's amazing.
I don't know if you'd average. I don't think it's a 2.5-star average. I mean, Johnny and Micah were both 4-star guys. Benson was a 4-star guy. So when you start doing that, but it's not like they're winning with South
they
Alabama
hadn't really
players.
Accomplished a lot, though. I mean, I know Trey was.
No,
hurt.
I get that. But you're seeing the talent they had. And they're bringing the talent out of them. They're developing it. They identified it. I don't know that everybody was falling all over themselves for Trey Benson or Johnny Wilson.
Yeah.
Jared Verse was really the only out of all the transfer guys of the last 2 years. I would say Jared Verse is the only one that like everybody wanted.
Yeah.
From Jermaine Johnson to Keir Thomas to Jamie Robinson, these weren't guys that the Alabamas and Ohio States of the world were after, but they're playing like those types of players. And Johnny Wilson, what's beautiful, going back to your point, I think Johnny Wilson's only catch was the touchdown. But he's still blocking like a maniac on the outside. And when they show him on the sidelines after the game, he's still smiling and joking with guys on the sideline, even though he only had one target. Because they don't seem to care. Trey Benson said afterwards, the reason he thinks they're so explosive is because they're so unselfish. That they really don't care who gets the credit. Meaning, those wide receivers, if Micah Pittman's only been thrown to twice the whole game, that doesn't stop him from trying to block his guy into the tunnel. In those explosive plays that Trey Benson makes running down the sidelines, none of them happen. Like, he could get 9 yards. He's not getting 30 yards unless the wide receivers are down there doing their jobs and the tight end is doing their job. So the unselfishness, I think, is really uncommon. That you have a whole wide receiver room where, like, Micah Pittman last week didn't have a catch. This week, Johnny Wilson had 1 catch. Johnny Wilson had 3 catches the last 2 weeks. And there doesn't appear to be any griping or any animosity. They all genuinely, when they see one of their teammates score, they all throw their hands up in the air. They were all really excited when Jordan caught that touchdown pass. It's just, it's a team that's easy to root for, not just because they're good and not just because they play hard, but they have some of that, as we've said before, some of that, 2020 FSU basketball DNA in them, where they really do get excited when somebody else leads them in scoring. I remember when Devin Vassell, with that great season, he led the league. I think it was 13 points because it was that team, but he led that team in scoring one time. So he became like the 11th different player to lead them in scoring. And the whole bench was going crazy every time he made a bucket. Trent Forrest or MJ Walker are being like, "Where's mine? I want my points." They're all so excited for their teammates. And I just think that speaks to what he's built. That also speaks to, like you touched on a little bit, hunger. And a team that hasn't done anything before, and they're playing like it. So it would be interesting. I was thinking about this today. If most of this offense, especially the guy calling the shots, comes back next year, is it different next year? Because they'll all come in with expectations, right?
Right.
Johnny Wilson's going to want to get to the league. Trey Benson wants to get to the league. Toa Feely, Jordan Travis is back for his 9th year. Will they still have this same attitude and be happy in their quote-unquote money years if they have 2 catches for 21 yards? That's what I'm interested in, but by all means, by all indications,
let's figure it out.
Won't be but it won't be a problem.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like it would be a problem, right? Like they still seem completely bought into what they're doing and trying to make this offense one of the best in the country and trying to make this football team one of the best in the country, which right now, I don't know, man, it clearly is.
Yeah, it's the buy-in thing is an important thing, and it's hammered year 1 and 2 when you're talking to a coach and the players, and sometimes Norvell says some coach speak stuff that makes you maybe want to be like, I don't know. I mean, when he talks about momentum, right? Like momentum is it's one play away from totally changing, but you see them living that out. You see them turning the ball over kind of in the first half when the game is still kind of maybe in the balance, but your defense comes right back on the field and just makes it an absolute non-starter, and it doesn't matter. Like, you see them living out the things that he's talking about.
Yeah.
He mentions the hard work doesn't guarantee success. Like, you have to continue showing up every single week and working harder, and there's no reason to think that it's going to stop. And even with an off season and some other goals being dangled in front of them, they're seeing this through right now. They're seeing what happens when you do stick to the process, if you want to call it proof of concept, whatever's going on with them right now. But yeah, man, if they run this back next year, maybe their head is close to their ceiling. Maybe they won't come out and go 14-0 next year. But certainly they've lived it, they've walked it, they've breathed it enough now to know that to get to where they want to have to get to, man, they do have to buy into this philosophy and live it out. And they have, man, and it makes for incredibly compelling football. It's great.
Did you see my so I looked it up. Florida State now after that game is 11th in the country in total defense, and they're 16th in the country in total offense.
And they're second in pass yardage allowed.
Yeah, yep. And
but to your point,
so,
11th in total defense, 16th in total offense.
And so they're top 20 in both. And they're the only other teams that are top 20 in the country in both total offense and total defense are Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State.
Good company.
Like, that's the company you're keeping now. Now the record doesn't keep that company because there's still some growing pains you have to go through and a learning curve when you're this much better than you were a year ago and 2 years ago. But that's the company they're keeping. And so when I keep saying this isn't normal, it's not. And when I keep saying I think they could play with anybody in the country, including Alabama, I believe it. I would never pick them to beat Alabama until they actually beat Alabama. But I wouldn't, 2 years ago, Alabama would have beaten them by 80 points. Now I think it's a fourth quarter game. They would not be blown off the field by any of those teams. They might go 0-3 against them, but they would be in the game against all of them. Yeah, I truly believe that.
Bear Bryant couldn't give Bobby too much guff, He'd be like, all right, good game, as they're watching down from the heavens, you know?
Exactly right. So yeah, that's where they are. That's the company they're keeping. They've run for all these things I just looked up, Aslan. They ran for over 200 yards for the fifth straight game. It's the first time they've done that since 1995. That's crazy. Warwick Dunn was a junior. Danny Cannell was the quarterback. Randy Moss and Walter Jones were both redshirting on that football team, which is the two best redshirts in college football history. So you're talking about stuff that just doesn't happen, not just around at Florida State, but anywhere. But this is a proud program that's done a lot of great things, and this team is doing stuff that we haven't seen in decades. That's no matter. I don't care who the opponent is. That's awesome, and it starts me. And as I asked Ira on the wrap after the game, is like when you watch it like this, when you watch what this team has become in the last 3 years. And in the last month, you start projecting, okay, if he's gotten it this much better this quickly, what is the ceiling of this program with him at the helm? What is the ceiling of this team? And then if they come back next year in mass, which again, they all could. I'm not predicting it, but if they did, do you have a playoff contender on your hands? Because my thought is, absolutely you do. If Jordan Travis comes back with Jared Verse and Johnny Wilson and Trey Benson and maybe Fabian Lovett, you've got if you stay healthy, you've got a playoff contender on your hands. That's crazy to think that that's where Florida State is, but that's how impressive they've been these last 3 weeks, and they've proven at every turn that they can play with the best in the country, I think. The last 2 years against Clemson proved that. The win against LSU. So you've proven you can play with the best in the country. You've proven you can beat. Apparently LSU is one of the best teams in the country, and you beat them. Can you do it consistently, and do you have the depth to withstand some injuries next season and get back to a place like this? And, that there's no reason to think they don't, man. That's how I just haven't felt this good about the direction of Florida State and about a particular Florida State team in 9 years.
No, I mean, I agree with you for sure on that. I mean, just in terms of what you think about this team right now and how good they're looking, and just how confident you are every single week. Like it's not a smoke and mirrors thing. Like you have a top rushing team plays against an Alabama or Georgia. Like they are quickly humble. Like you see Tennessee's high-octane offense become humbled against Georgia. Like, Florida State's running game is not going to become impotent against anybody. That's left on the schedule, at least. Even if they end up playing in Alabama, let's say in the bowl game, I still think they'll find a way to rip off close to 200 yards. They'll get close to their average. It's extremely impressive. The one thing, though, this is a good thing that we have to guard against now because of how low we were at a certain point. I do wonder when you talk about, we start thinking about what the ceiling of this program can be with this staff and the sort of blueprint they're using right now. But that's a great mystery. That's what keeps us coming back every week, though, right? Because it's like scalability. You can sit out front of your house and sell lemonade and make $100, but you just can't instantly scale that up. You're like, well, if we make 15 lemonade stands, we're gonna make 15 times the money we're making. It's just the way it works. It's like, well, no, there's all sorts of different variables that go into play. It's going to be expectations on you being hunted, a little bit of a different schedule. LSU apparently has another really good freaking linebacker that was spying Arkansas's lame.
Man, that guy is a freakazoid.
Harold Perkins. He was a true freshman, so we'll see. But again, I mean, good problems to have, and it's crazy when you kind of sit back and think about again how dire things looked, 2 years ago, a year ago. I mean, listen, man, you couldn't beat Florida with an interim staff. Now they're going to be coming in here, hooping and hollering, and you're probably going to be favored by close to a touchdown against them. And I'm not that nervous about that number. And, I enjoy that. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, well, yeah, that's good. It's just really commendable. Norvell has done a fantastic job. And like I wrote in the column, and I think this is the truth, man, I think, Florida State fans have not had this much fun watching football in a good long while. Shanna, the ex-wife, even texted me, and she's like, this is flipping awesome when they threw the reverse pass to make it 38-3. Not because they just score, although that was awesome too because of the reason they did it, I think. But man, just to be a Florida State fan and feel like it's 1999 again, just for a brief moment. We know it's not a championship team. I'm not comparing, Micah Pittman to Peter Warwick or anything like that. This is not as good a team as that one, clearly. But it's been so long since Florida State fans could breathe in the third quarter of a game. When you had a lead, you're like, okay, when are they going to blow it?
Yeah,
and if it was even, you're like, how are they going to lose?
Yeah, you're still scarred. Like you're watching the game, like, oh, that's a drive killer, that penalty, and then you should be up 3 scores, and they're only up by 18 instead of 24, and it's like, Corey, it's going to be all right, man. This team is this ain't it's not the teams of yesteryear.
Yeah, you almost have to change the way you watch the game, and because you're right. Like when. And it was the truth at the moment. You're up 14-3, and then that fumble, and you're like, yeah, man, this is how you keep bad teams in the game in their own building, or teams worse than you. When you're a better team, this is how you lose games, is by mistakes like that. And that was really the last mistake they made. After that, they were almost flawless offensively, and defensively they basically were flawless. And kudos again to Fuller. I know he's been much maligned the last 3 years. He deserves his flowers, man. This has been 2 straight games without a touchdown, 11th in the country in total defense. Think about that unit 2 years ago, man. Bailey Hawkman lit them up. Bailey Hawkman.
He's not even playing football anymore. He has eligibility. He's not even playing football. He's out.
And now they're going on the road and essentially pitching shutouts 2 weeks in a row. That's how far they've come. He's done a very good job. They've also gotten him players, which helps. And as I said, and I continue to say, his career will really be judged on how they acquire the player acquisition, how much better talent-wise they can get on that defense. But he definitely knows what he's doing. Florida State doesn't give up any big plays, and they lead the country in big plays on offense. That's a nice combination to have. He's done a good job. Obviously, Norvell's done a great job in Atkins with the offense. And these players, man. And again, I think you could make the argument, not an argument, the stance that it starts with the quarterback is kind of true, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Like it's just, we haven't even really talked about him. He had 5 touchdowns in that game. And we haven't talked about the quarterback, who had 2 incompletions. One of them is when his wide receiver slips out coming out of a break, which looked like a perfect throw on 3rd and 14. And the other one is when his lineman blindsided him while he was throwing the ball. Those are his 2 incompletions. Dylan Gibbons inexplicably runs over and hits him as he's throwing the ball. And Dylan Gibbons, by the way, had a very good game and is a very good lineman, and he's the leader of that group. So I'm not trying to poke fun at the dude. He's been really good, and that line's been great. But he was 21 to 23, and those were his 2 incompletions. Now, he didn't make a ton of great throws or tough throws, but you don't have to. He's making the right reads and the right decisions, and he's getting the ball out on time. He's getting it to where his receivers can go make plays. He's not making inexplicable mistakes. He's running well. It's to the point where you take for granted. Oh yeah, Jordan Travis had a nice game, 21 to 23, 5 total touchdowns. But that's where he is. He's just considering where he was and where he is now, that you almost lose it. But he's had through 10 games, one of the best seasons a Florida State quarterback has ever had. Not the best. We all know what that one is. Probably not one of the 4 best. But he's up there, man. This has been a great season by him. And when you go into a game knowing your quarterback is seeing it the way he's seeing it, making all the right checks, making all the right reads, running this thing like a veteran because he is, and making all the plays, man, you just feel completely confident. On the road, at home, it shouldn't matter. And it hasn't. The guy's just been great. Other than one half in Raleigh and a second quarter against Wake. The guy has been exceptional pretty much all season.
And apparently, if he leaves, we're going to be all right because Tate Rodemaker graded out at 92.5 according to PFF. Jordan only 73.5.
Yeah. Explain that one to me, big dog.
I don't know, man.
Did you watch Tate and go like, God, he's playing 20% better than Jordan played?
Again, it's all data. We need to know what times to weigh it properly and when not to weigh it.
But I go back to when you think about next season, and I know there's still 3 games left in this season. If you get 13 to come back, you have to get him to come back. If there's any way, shape, or form. If he's giving you any hope at all or any indication that he wants to come back, which I think he probably does at this point, because who's not having fun with this? Why wouldn't you come back if you're going to get some money? And he'll get some very real money, get him back, and you go into next season so confident heading into every game. And also because you have no idea what it's going to be like without him. It probably wouldn't be horrible. We saw that against Louisville, but he is such a difference maker, man, and he is playing at such a high level. He is the second best quarterback in the conference behind the kid from North Carolina, and he might be one of the top, again, 10 quarterbacks in the country. I can tell you one thing, he wouldn't lose to Arizona like the kid at UCLA did. Did you watch any of that game?
No.
Jordan Travis would average 400 yards a game in the Pac-12. This offense would put up 750 yards a game. That is the softest league in the world.
Well, this guy coached in the Pac-12. Their offenses weren't as good as they were. I mean, he never had above a top 25 offense at Arizona State, and right now his offense at Florida State is 16th. So
how about that?
I'm gonna throw shade at the Pac-12. Leave them alone over there, man. Let them.
Oh man, it's crazy. I love it. It's awesome, but those defenses, holy smokes! You saw that Oregon-Washington game. Come on, man. Those defenses are not great. It's a bummer for Kenny. No sarcasm there. That was a bad loss for them. Did you see on their last drive though when they were down 3?
I saw when they went for on 4th and 1 on like their own 35. Hate to see that. I'll throw shade at. What are you doing, man? Punt the ball.
Well, no, I meant when they were down, when Washington took the lead with under a minute to go, and then Oregon had a 4th and 14 from deep in its own end, and they converted it.
Oh, was it illegal touching?
Here goes Dilly again. Another 4th and 14. He did it again, but then they ended up not scoring and lost the game. But still.
Yeah. I don't want to diminish anything that Jordan's done, and I agree with you. Ideal plan A is you find a way to bring him back next year. But I think this offensive line is good enough that they can either go to the portal or figure out ways to cater certain things around Tate. And again, I know Tate didn't look great in the limited action that he had. I mean, I think everything is working in conjunction great for this offense right now. He is the linchpin of it. But, man, right below if this offensive line can block the way they're blocking, because Jordan has a lot of time, man. You know, a lot of it used to be him, rolling out, extending plays. Man, a lot of it is just him staying in the pocket, staying calm, going through all his progressions. If they can find a guy that can, have a good feel for the offense, I feel good about where they'll be because this offensive line, I think, is really been a huge part of Jordan's success, obviously. But his presence alone opens up things for the run game that we really can't, quantify. So
and you're going to lose 2. You lose your 2 guards. But the way, again, when you think about the portal, and you might have guys on your roster that you like a lot. We don't know. But the way the portal has been and should be for Florida State, after seeing what anybody in the country that's looking around and sees what these transfer guys are doing at Florida State, it's going to sell itself. So maybe this year, and all love to Dimitri Emanuel, maybe you're not going and getting a guy from Charlotte. You know what I mean? Or maybe you're not even going and getting like the 7th lineman from a place like Notre Dame, like Dylan Gibbons was. You're going and getting starters from Power 5 schools. Maybe. That's an option, right? Like that's how appealing and enticing I think Florida State should be in the transfer portal now.
But don't you have to kind of keep that workman-like, chip on the shoulder? Maybe isn't that part of some of the success they're enjoying right now? They're not getting the disgruntled guy. They're getting the guy that is hungry. Felt that he got jilted or wants to
maybe
prove his stock, kind of a thing.
But it might be somebody's leaving because their coach left. It might not be like he's just a malcontent. It might just be they're leaving because the coach left, or they went 2-10, and they want to go play for a winner, not because they're not getting. I just think they're not getting shine.
I think it just goes to prove that, listen, you can either go get a guy that was one dude away from playing at Notre Dame, or a guy that was at Charlotte. I mean, you're getting two different caliber kind of players, at least on paper, right? You're getting a guy from Notre Dame, a guy from Charlotte, but both of them have integrated into your offense flawlessly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you can go bargain bin if you want to look at it that way. You're going to a lower level group of 5 school, or you can go to a absolute blue blood. But man, they know what they need, who's going to work, and that's the most important part of it.
And they're doing a great job of identifying guys that can help. Turrentine, obviously, I don't think they wanted him to play tackle necessarily, at least start, but he had to. He was kind of forced into that, and look. They've lost guys. They've lost some guys for the year, and it's still one of the better units in the conference, which is just crazy to think about. And going back to this team in particular, not just the future, but what's been so great is the complementary aspect of this. Like you talked about having the one fumble on even that play. I don't blame that sack on the O-line. It was a goofy play that Norvell took credit for, took blame for, I should say.
Accountability,
yeah. I mean, it was I think it was supposed to be like a fake quarterback draw or counter play.
Yeah.
And Jordan kind of just stands there and scans, and none of it looked right. But Jordan was so confident in that. Think about him being so confident in that offensive line that he just stands there like a statue 2 yards from the line of scrimmage, looking downfield.
Versus 4 years ago, what the quarterback was dealing with.
Yeah. He's like, don't touch me, Abdul. Don't help me up. Why don't you block somebody? But even Jordan 2 years ago would have been completely skittish with good reason. And now he's just standing tall like he's Peyton Manning because he thinks he's got protection for 9 seconds. That's telling. And then but so they fumble there. Defense pushes them back. They actually get better field position than they had when he fumbled because the kid ends up missing the 53-yard field goal. First miss against Florida State by a field goal kicker, I think, in 11 tries, by the way. And then you think about what the special teams did, man. Think about how many drives you faced two offenses that are not very good the last 2 weeks, right? Think of how many times those two not good offenses had to start inside their 8-yard line.
Yeah,
man. When you're not a good offense, the last thing you want to do is have your butt on your own goal line, and that's happened like 7 or 8 times the last 2 weeks.
3 punts for Mastermano. All 3 of them were inside the 20.
I think all 3 were inside the 8. Yeah. The kid fair caught one at the 5, and I think the other 2 he fair caught inside the 10. Last week you down 2 at the 1. And then so you think about that special teams play. And then you also think about Micah Pittman catching every ball when it matters. And not only letting the ball not roll, but getting 10 yards, getting 12 yards. These are first downs. He's saving your offense work.
Yeah, good. Very good point. Yeah.
So there was one play in particular on Saturday night where the ball hits because it was a terrible punt, and it rolls. He picks it up. If he doesn't pick it up, it's going to roll an extra 10 yards. Instead, he picks it up and runs 10 yards forward. Well, okay, guys, that's 20 yards you just got saved because you have a punt returner that's not afraid to catch the ball. And he caught a couple other ones and made guys miss and turned balls that I think the guys last year wouldn't have even tried to catch because they would have been worried about dropping it. He's not only catching them, he's running them forward 15 yards. So he might have saved you just in one game 55 yards in field position. You can't put so yeah, you got 420 yards of offense, but you also have those hidden yards of 50 or 60 yards. So instead of starting at your own 27 or 29, you're starting at your 43. Or the one drive you started at their 24.
Correct.
Because he caught it on the run, had a nice return, and then got face masked. That can't be overlooked. That's really and overstated how important that is. So the special teams, man, it's just been really, really, really good here. The last 2 weeks for sure, and really kind of off and on all year. But the last 2 weeks, it's been exceptional. And I have to say this, Aslan, I don't know if you've seen the replay.
I have not.
But what in the sorry, I almost cussed. Oh. What in the flip are Ryan Fitzgerald and Mastromano doing on that missed field goal? The one that was short, the 51-yarder?
I didn't see it. Do you want to explain? I haven't watched the replay.
So it's 38-3. They try a 51-yarder. He hits it right down the middle, but I think it comes up about a yard short.
Yeah.
After he kicks it, there's a guy that dives for the ball and misses it.
Oh, yeah, I remember
and
that.
Fitzgerald crumples to the ground like he's been shot. And then Mastromano, the holder, then goes and lays down right beside him as if he got taken out as well. Like they were bowling pins. Or it's a murder scene. And they're laying there. Even Mark Richt brought it up on the ACC show afterwards. He's like, well, you got to get soccer out of the game. It was after he told Norvell to kick the Gators' ass, which if you haven't seen that clip, that's a direct quote from Mark Richt, so don't get mad at me. But he did say that. He asked Norvell to go do that for him. But he also brought up Mastromano and Fitzgerald falling down as if they had just been kneecapped. I don't know. I guess they were doing it as a joke because they're up 35 points. But, no, they had to. Mastromano for sure.
They were selling it. They weren't doing it as a joke.
But have you ever seen a holder sell it?
I've never seen a punter run across the line of scrimmage either.
Mastromano's playing his own game, gang. He's playing his own. It's Alex's world, man. He's just doing his thing. Can't wait for one of you. I won't be there, Aslan, today. So if you want to ask Papuchis about that and maybe see if any of these fools will actually watch that video of Papuchis, I do want to know what they said about that play because I've never seen a holder fake getting run into. Kickers, it happens. I get it. The holder fell down and sprawled out on the turf.
The clutch shot, the biggest hit. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good
Player of the Week.
You heard the man. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. Let's go to the soccer team, who is the #1 overall seed in the entire national tournament. And Lauren Flynn, maybe not the prettiest goal that you're going to see, but in terms of the effort, it was indescribably good. Battling inside the 21-yard box, she's able to gain possession, weave through a couple of, what is Florida Gulf Coast? What are they? The Eagles or something? Who knows?
Sure, that sounds right.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Basically making them look like training pylons and puts one in the lower corner to get the ladies on the board in the 52nd minute. Maybe a little pressure there playing with that #1 overall seed on their back, and they come out scoreless at halftime. But she picks her teammates up right there. So Lauren Flynn is my Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week, Corey.
And that was her first goal of the year. Pretty good time for it to get the game winner.
That's right.
There's a lot of avenues to go down. The guy that scored 5 touchdowns, Trey Benson, you could give it to every week. I'm going to go off the beaten path a little bit, and I'm just going to say, I don't even know what his stats were, but I have to pick up somebody from the defense. They need some love. I'm just going to say Fabian Lovett. He played 21 plays. I don't care. Fabian Lovett, it's indescribable how much he's changed that team by coming back. Not even making a huge impact. Doesn't matter. Him being out there is an impact. He's hard to block. And I was going to give it to Adam Fuller, but he makes a lot of money. So I'm going to give it to Fabian Lovett. He's my indescribably good player of the week because that defense has now allowed 6 points in 2 games. The last competitive touchdown it allowed was the first drive of the second half against Georgia Tech. Since then, 23 straight drives they have not allowed a touchdown. So that's indescribable, and I'm giving it to Fabian Lovett.
Fabian Lovett, Lauren Flynn, are Zaxby's Indescribably Good Players of the Week. All right, before we go out, Corey, I do want to give him his proper due. That is Alex Mastromano. I'm finally learning how to read all the stats on Stat Broadcast a little cleaner. Okay. So one punt down at the 8-yard line, the other one down at the 5-yard line, the other one down at the 7-yard line.
Yeah.
So that's real good. Talking about it during the live watch-along with Tom Lang, and this is now 2 games in a row Florida State has gone without allowing the opposition to get into the end zone. Should Chip Baker rethink? And listen, I get the whole aura of the spiked baseball, which most people listen to the podcast know that Chip Baker, longtime ops assistant coach for Florida State baseball, still with the program, would drive a nail through a baseball and award it to Mickey Andrews back in the day when the defense used to pitch shutouts. Well, that doesn't happen all that much in this day and age. Should Chip reconsider and perhaps make it either this is another game where they allowed the opposition less than 200 offensive yards. Should it be something like, all right, if you hold them under 200 yards or you don't allow them to score a touchdown, I'll give you a spiked baseball, or do we not want to dilute just what it means to have the
I just don't know
baseball?
what's the barometer. What are you using then? Is it under 10 points? Is it one? I think it should be one touchdown or less.
Okay.
In this day and age of college football, just no touchdowns, that's almost as rare. I mean, that doesn't happen much either. So I would say one touchdown or less, or maybe one touchdown or less by your starters.
Okay.
Really get intricate. In fact, I'll be honest with you, Aslan, if we're changing things up, I thought Saturday should have been a sod game. Let's get some sod from the Carrier Dome, man, or whatever they're calling it. Come on now.
Wireless Dome. Yeah. I wonder how that's gone over up there. And then they just call it the Dome. Even on ESPN, they're like, Florida State taking on Syracuse in the Dome.
Yeah.
We're not going to call it.
Nobody's doing that. Before we go, we do have to.
There's
the
a couple of things
team,
I want to talk about if you don't mind.
Oh, let's go. Okay, let's go.
First off, let's look at the polls real quick. Florida State has now moved up to 20th.
20th in both.
In both polls, so that's good. Yeah. We'll see how they rank in the playoff poll.
They should be higher than that, man. I would think they'd be like 18 in the playoff. Yeah. I mean, they have a chance if they beat Florida, because Florida will be 7-4, maybe ranked. Florida State will, you hope, be 8-3. They're a 24-point favorite this week early on against Louisiana. We'll see where that number ends up going. But if Florida State's 8-3 and Florida's 7-4, and then they beat Florida, I don't know, man. Can Florida State get to 12, 13? And if they do that, I guess there's really no chance of New Year's Six, right? Because of Carolina and Clemson.
Well, yeah.
One of those two both of those teams would be taken before Florida State.
Yeah, and then I think we got to remember Notre Dame is still in the mix there, and then also that Group of 5 school gets also the New Year's Six bid. So
don't you think it's got to be the Gator Bowl, the Tax Slayer Bowl,
or that ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa? I think that's maybe even a rung above the Tax Slayer Bowl. So that would be, maybe like Ole Miss. It could be like Ole Miss, Alabama, one of those teams.
Yeah, but I think the Gator Bowl, too, is a SEC game.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. You're right. But I think ReliaQuest, I think the one in Tampa, I think it might be just, sorry to my friends in Duval, I think it might be just a little bit higher, maybe a
all right. Okay. All right.
We'll see how it goes. And just for me to be on brand, not everyone's going to – a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, and I know you're going to disagree with me on this. I know Shanna's going to disagree with me on this. I like the Philly special. I don't know why you run it there. That play is bulletproof with what you have personnel-wise. Why run it there when you have no need to score? You could have, if the Florida game is nip and tuck, man, you could have pulled that out against the Gators and changed the momentum of the game. I don't like pulling out that play at that juncture. I just thought that was bringing a sledgehammer when you had to kill a fly. It was unnecessary.
It's all because of what the Syracuse defensive tackle did.
Bow up then, Corey. Bow up and run it right at him and show him who's boss.
No, make him. You know what's crazy is the play before when we thought Benson scored, and then they went and reviewed it. But as Benson's lying in the end zone and they're signaling touchdown, that kid just pushes Jordan Travis. Maybe Travis was talking to him, but he just goes flats out and pushes Jordan in the chest, and Jordan throws his hands up and looks at the ref. The very next play, he makes that play where he tackles Benson in the backfield and then looks and does a wrestling move towards the Florida State sideline and giggles and laughs and points at himself. I just think that angered the coach to the point where it's like, okay, we're scoring on this no matter what. I'm not going to give that dude the satisfaction. And here's the thing, man.
He's a guy from Syracuse. Who cares? Don't give the Gators the satisfaction of having.
You know they have a play off that play.
All right.
And also, how often are you practicing defending that? And in the moment, would you recognize it? And would you do it out of a different formation so they don't know that you're under center? Maybe it's not Micah Pittman going in motion. It's somebody else going in motion. There's still some tricks they got in the bag. Right. I just like that they did it at that juncture, strictly because of that kid with his weird whatever corset that he was wearing around his belly that he had to sit there and watch, run one way, then look back the other and watch Jordan Travis score for the 5th time.
2 weeks in a row, Corey body shaming somebody. I love it.
That's what I
I'm here
do.
for
He's
it.
5'11", 266. Man, he's a good. Looks like a good player. I just, you know, I tweeted it too. Like, that was crazy to be dancing and celebrating when you're down 28 points and the team has the ball at your 2-yard line. And then the last punt of the game that Micah Pittman fields, one of Syracuse's guys tackles him, 2-yard gain, whatever, and then gets up and starts dancing. It's like, you remember those moments, Aslan, and how infuriating they are?
Yeah.
It's so awesome to know they're not around anymore, man. That stuff isn't happening. And to watch another team go through it, and their fans, the fans that are actually Syracuse football fans, being like, what is going on with our program? How in the world do you have a lack of self-awareness to get up and dance, making a meaningless tackle when your team is down by 35 points? But whatever. It's not Florida State's issue anymore.
What did you want to talk about on the way out, Corey?
Well, two things. So Florida State, as you mentioned, the soccer team won. So they advanced to the second round where they'll play
LSU.
Friday night against LSU at home at 5:30. And then 8 o'clock that Friday night is Florida State-Florida men's basketball at the Civic Center. So just throwing that out there. It's going to be you could do a double dip if you're a Florida State fan. You could go to the happy hour with Jeff Cameron and I. But all of it's on the table. But Florida State soccer plays LSU at 5:30, and then the men's basketball team, which is in rough shape, folks. It has not been a good start.
Can you riff on that for a minute? Obviously, watching the UCF game on Friday, I did not get to catch it, but is it just a lack of shooters? Is it a lack of finish at the rim? Is it the rebounding number was gross.
It's crazy. They got out rebounded 52-22, which I just impossible. I don't know if an ACC team has ever been out rebounded by 30 by a non-ACC school or just in general. It's just. But look, they brought in the kid from Brown. Was supposed to be a real difference maker. Transfer, 2-time defensive player of the year up there. A great athlete that could cover guys. Well, he's out for the year with a knee injury. Then in the first 5 minutes of that game on Friday night, Naheem McLeod goes out with an injury, and Leonard said it's going to be out for 2 months. So you have no big men anymore. You're out. 2 of your freshmen aren't playing because they're hurt. They might come back. We don't know when. So they basically had 7 scholarship players on Friday night against UCF. None of them played particularly well. Cam Fletcher isn't right. He's hurt. He's got a bad back. And they haven't figured out what they're doing. Like, is Caleb Mills going to be your scorer? He's going to be your point guard. So it just looks like it could be a really long season. Oh, and also Baba Miller. Let's not forget about that nonsense gang. He's a tall kid that could rebound, that could help. So 3 of your tallest guys are out at least until January. And you've got some big games between now and then, including Florida on Friday night. You play Troy tonight. Troy's going to be in the Civic Center. Maybe you can get your first win of the year. But yeah, man, it's the key. The advantage that Florida State always has and has had in the last 6 or 7 years is their depth and their quality of depth. Well, they have 7 guys now, and 3 of them are guys that have never played before. So do you really have a depth advantage? I think Tom House could be a good player, but he's a freshman. Played 2 games in his career. He doesn't rebound.
I like the Corn
None of these
kid.
guys rebound.
I like the Corn
Yeah,
kid.
I do too. But he's got so much learning to do.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's going to have to learn on the job because there's no other big guys. That's it. He's the guy. So they're going to be small. They're going to have to play small. And Caleb Mills, Jalen Worley are going to have to say, you know what? I got to go rebound. Derwin Kitchen was a great rebounder. He wasn't big. You got to go find a way to help your guys out and rebound. Otherwise, you're going to get destroyed on the boards by anyone. So anyway, they got Troy tonight, and they got Florida on Friday night. It's going to be interesting to see what this team becomes and when it can get healthy. It's just like, man, it's such a bummer. Not only did COVID ruin the Final Four chance, national championship chance, and then we only got Scotty Barnes at like 20% of real power because you couldn't have crowds at the game. But then this injury bug the last 2 years has been nuts. And /NCAA bug, basically suspending your best player, your most talented player, because of some nonsense. So it's just Leonard deserves some breaks, man, especially after COVID and what team he had put together and the fact that they didn't get to play that tournament. And it's like the basketball gods are just laughing at him. Come on, guys. Take care of Leonard Hamilton. Absolutely. Basketball gods, let's go.
And keep tweeting at Dick Vitale, everybody. Dick's fighting the good fight. Maybe he'll be able to get the NCAA to overturn Bob Miller's suspension. We sure would hope so. All right, that's a wrap for us. 11:30 this morning. Mike Norvell, coordinators, will be at the podium. We'll have live coverage on warchant.com. Corey hammering things out live, all the stuff that you need to know. And then I think there'll be a video kind of reaction or the top 4 takeaways. We'll break out some other stuff. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. Corey and I will be back with another program for you. We'll see if we get Tom Lang on there as well, since it'll be a Tuesday program. When are we going to do a live show, Corey? Wednesday, Thursday? What are you thinking, big dog?
Let's do it Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it Thursday.
Stringing it together. I like it. Consistency.
Nope,
they like
let's
that.
do it.
That's what our
Yep, let's
consultants like. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you so much for listening to Wake Up War Chant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.